Part 2.
Go to patreon.com/HalloweenIsForever and you sign up. You get the Rascals tier, $5 a month. And guess what? You got Family is Forever, which is our Fast and Furious series.
Yes.
You got Youth Group is Forever.
Yes.
That's the Christian horror films. But starting in this month, in the month of March, we have our brand new series starting. It's going to be called The 90s is Forever Comedy Edition.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. If that sounds like fun for you, and then you want to go back and listen to our, probably at this point, honest to God, 60 hours of other content on the Patreon exclusive podcast series, which you'll have access to, go over and sign up on patreon.com/Halloween is Forever. And you get all that stuff. Plus, you can join us here in the Discord, as we oftentimes have some friends here, just like tonight, joining us as we record live in the Discord. So, and as always, I'll be honest with you, I've been real bad about it because I've made a conscious effort to remove as much social media from my life as humanly possible. But if you want to interact with us on the internets, you can go do so at Halloween's Forever on any of the various social media platforms, or send us an email. If you want one of them old-fashioned emails, you can send it to us at halloweenisforeverpod@gmail.com as well. So, Steven, do you want to get right into Crimson Peak?
Yes. Crimson Peak. A movie I hadn't seen. I took a flying leap on this one because I knew it as a Victorian horror movie.
Sure.
But I don't know. I'd never seen it. I just decided, hey, give it a chance. I remember it not getting like good reviews or anything, but I just don't. I'm never willing to believe that about Guillermo del Toro, that he makes a bad movie. I just don't believe that.
No, I think he's one of those guys that's like, even his less inspired stuff, it's like, it's still going to look fucking amazing. It's still be entertaining. It's going to be paced well. Guillermo del Toro is like, he's a modern fucking master. He's not going to make a bad movie.
No, like he literally just wins Oscars off like horror and genre and pulp stuff. So he's one of the few people who can win and get nominated on this stuff with, The Shape of Water and Nightmare Alley. Nightmare Alley isn't necessarily like a straight horror film, but it is so steeped in just the stylization. And
I gotta watch. I still haven't seen Nightmare Alley. I know it's been years since it came out. I still haven't watched it.
It's only like 4 years, but it's still like still pretty good. But even all the way back to Mimic, I like Mimic. So I don't.
It's been years since I saw that one.
So you're just not going to convince me that Del Toro makes a bad movie, and I was right. Crimson Peak's a good movie.
It is a good movie. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Whoever said that, they're full of shit. You guys I think it's just because it is a real throwback to filmmaking, though. The one thing that I think there's a couple things in common between all three movies beyond the Victorian theming. And the one thing that really sticks out is set design and production design. Like, all three films are so controlled over all of that. And it's like hard to ignore. Like, Bava has like an amazing control over his set design and camera movement. Del Toro goes all out and builds like these really impressive sets in this film that just like they hearken to a period. You can look at it immediately and know exactly what he's trying to tell you. And like, they're grand. They all have this grandness about them.
They all have this. I did use that word. Like, they all have this. I think a lot of times, whenever you see a studio or director or whoever take on something that is a period piece, especially Victorian, because it's just such a distinct aesthetic look. When you think of like a lot of European style Victorian era aesthetics, they immediately want to make it really grandiose. They want to make it feel like this big old Hollywood style budget or old Hollywood style epic type of piece. Guillermo does it. It's a little bit smaller scale. But there are definitely parts that, compared to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which is my movie we'll talk about, which is like the opening scene like seems like it should be right out of like a 50s epic. You know what I mean? No, you don't necessarily get that with Del Toro. He's a little bit into like smaller, not smaller stories, but like tighter proximity. You know what I mean? Everything's in a lot of his movies feels very claustrophobic. You know what I mean? Claustrophobic's not even the right word. Just like I don't know, imposing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
you're trapped somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of feelings of being trapped, but also just, the interiors of the house are imposing because it goes, the ceilings are 30 feet high, if not more. So you feel every weight of this house that's also just coming down on top of you as well. Like it's falling the fuck apart. So
it's one thing I'll say about Del Toro, and this is not true of all of his movies, but the only reason he's one of those guys that's like, yes, he makes his visual style is incredible. And he has talked, like you hear him in his interviews, even when he's taught, like when he did that, like Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yeah.
He was kind of the Hitchcock intro. He kind of did his own little Hitchcock intros at the beginning.
I loved it,
which were great. He's very whimsical.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's his cup of tea. He loves fantasy. He loves like whimsy. I mean, Pan's Labyrinth obviously is the greatest example of that. But one thing that some of his movies don't appeal to me as much is because they give me the vibe of like a YA novel sometimes. Like I get a little bit of this like YA fantasy horror vibe in a lot of his movies, even though shit will get dark and will get violent and gory and like really scary. I just get this vibe that a lot of his stuff has this like underlying YA feel to it. Like I found myself at one point, especially once they got to the house, the family house in where is it? Not Cumberland. Where is it? It's in
Cumberland.
England.
Yeah, it's Cumberland.
Is it Cumberland?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When they got to England, I was like, this feels like a YA fantasy novel version of like steampunk Resident Evil 4. You know what I mean? Like, I was where like everyone's really I don't want to say it as a Tim Burton vibes but this one just
Tim Burton vibes is a little bit fair as well. Some of the violence in this is a little brutal, and the ghosts are kind of horrific to look at. And especially like there's also like some just adult consequences of like a child was killed, they killed a baby, and they all get buried in this red clay, which stains all the ghosts red because they're just buried in the mine of this dying house. So
there was there's not nudity, but there's some like pretty risky sex scene, and also like a thrusting butt, which I think is like and also the themes of like and incest too.
Well, I can see like incest appearing in a YA novel because it's just kind of like a creepy, it's a creepy, unpleasant thing. You don't see anything that's or they don't talk about anything that like goes really disgusting, but it is just like Jessica.
They do talk about like Jessica baby, like.
Well, they're talking about Jessica Chastain. You see Jessica Chastain giving him a hand job, but then they talk about how like their baby came out wrong. So those are like kind of heady adult themes, but I don't know. I don't read YA novels. Like what the fuck goes on in the Hunger Games? It's like it's battle royal for kids. Like what the fuck,
True. I haven't read enough of them, but just like I feel like I've seen enough like previews for Freeform series and stuff like over the years, or that I kind of get the vibe. But anyway.
So anyway, we'll get into Crimson Peak. The story, it starts in America, which is kind of an interesting turn. We're introduced to Edith, played by Mia Wasikowska. I'm not really familiar with her from anything else. She seems to do just like a lot of films that just have never touched into my space, but apparently she was Alice in the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland.
That's the only thing that I've seen her in.
Okay. So yeah. I mean, I haven't even seen that, but that's the only thing I kind of recognize from her.
You can miss it.
Yeah. I definitely missed it on purpose, but yeah. She was also Jane Eyre in the 2011 Jane Eyre adaptation. But yeah,
I didn't see that one.
Other than that, like, she hasn't really kind of gone into my purview. I thought she was Bryce Dallas Howard for a second, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of
I can see that.
They kind of look the same, but
they do look a little bit alike.
But yeah, we're introduced to Edith, and we're given this story about how her mother dies from black cholera, which is another thing that's kind of prevalent in Frankenstein. This is kind of how we know we're all in the 1800s. Everybody's getting cholera and dysentery, and
everyone's getting cholera. Pandemics abound. Yeah. Calling card of the Victorian era.
Yeah, and we get introduced to her mother's ghost, and this is they're just getting it right out of the way, which is pretty great. They're just like, hey, movie's got ghosts in it, like we're not gonna hold back. Also, ghosts are skeletons and they're terrifying, so
yeah I was gonna say that I just immediately, actually one of my notes was ghosts is skeletons now. Because all these ghosts is skeletons.
Yep, they're all skeletons, don't worry about it.
Yeah
It's all of this set up at once of like the kind of imagery you're gonna get skeleton ghosts, and the hallway to Edith's room is just these two crazy contrasting lights, because you have like kind of the yellow one in the back, and then there's the green one that lights the hallway, and just like a good green light is like something you never see anywhere. It's so unnatural. You don't see that. It's
no.
So
I'm a sucker for it, but yeah, it never looks natural. Right. Although this like old Victorian mansion, well, it would have been built way before that, but this old like super ornate mansion, you could kind of see like any color kind of makes sense, because you just assume every other window is like stained glass,
right. Yeah. And that's kind of like how they explain the motivated lighting, but it is just, it only really occurs in Edith's bedroom when she's seeing the ghost, both as a child and then as an adult, that you get like this harsh green lighting and like these ornate shadows that are cast on the ground, from the ironwork in the windows or the ironwork in the bed frame, wherever you're seeing it coming from. It's just like these ornate shadows, but you kind of only see it in her bedroom, these two times, because the rest of the time she's in America, everything is just like this bathed in gold light. I was trying to think, because it has, we're in the prosperity era of America. It's 1901,
early industrial. It's industrial revolution in full swing.
Yeah.
Robber barons going wild, making a lot of money.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's 1901, and it is specifically like the end of the Victorian era, because this is the year Queen Victoria dies. So everything we see in America is done in this kind of Old West, kind of almost reminds me of like Briscoe County Jr., with the way how things are kind of just like propped up, and like they're fancy, but they're not. I don't know. Like you said,
they're new money fancy.
Yeah. And like you said, there's that steampunk aesthetic as well going around, because there's a lot of the steam engine happening, so like America on the rise, on the go. And so everything is bathed in gold, and even Edith perpetually is wearing gold at different points in the movie, because she still represents the newness of America. She's representing what's happening now.
Sure.
Then we meet Thomas Sharp and Lucille Sharp, and they are basically two British grifters.
Yes, they're British grifters, and Thomas, and this was probably my biggest, the thing that took me out of this movie the most is I could not look at Thomas without seeing Sweeney Todd. Like he just has such a Sweeney Todd vibe to him.
Yeah.
That I couldn't get past it.
Yeah. And I think you're supposed to kind of expect that as well, because when we see what happens to Edith and her father, there's
Mm-hmm.
there's an allusion to Sweeney Todd in a way, because
Yeah.
he's shaving in the mirror with a straight razor, and you think,
Well,
oh,
and
he's about to get his throat cut. And then no, it's this strangely brutal act of him getting his head bashed against the sink.
well, they even do the like he drops the like they do a lot of foreshadowing with sound design in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them they do is when he's got the straight razor, it's like swing, swing, like they're doing the little like sound effects in there that are really highlighting how sharp this razor is, but
Mm-hmm.
it never gets used besides for shaving, which is kind of a fun redirect.
Yeah. Which a lot of this film is.
Or misdirect, I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of this film is kind of a misdirect in that, you think a lot of things that are going to have a weight or going to matter or going to affect things, they wind up not being that way. And they wind up playing on other, just like, not tropes, but just like other reveals that you learn, like we've mentioned about how like, there's a kid that dies and it's like, oh, that's kind of gruesome. And then you find out, oh, the kid isn't who you thought it was. We
Sure.
already mentioned
the kid isn't the victim's kid.
Yeah. Like we already mentioned it, how it was an incest kid, but within the tale of the movie, you think, oh, they murdered this woman and her baby, how fucking terrible. And then it's no, they murdered this woman and their own baby. Ugh. God.
Yeah.
So it's like, it builds upon itself in like these little redirects of like these two people, Lucille and Thomas, are the most despicable in the world. Like they are just terrible, terrible monsters. And like that, and it turns out, oh, the ghosts, they're not that bad. The ghosts are all victims and the ghosts are mostly helpful.
Yeah, they're trying to warn them, which is interesting because in the first act, I thought that there was going to be more supernatural things that were going to happen with Thomas and Edith.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they're going to have some sort of like occult motivations or occult approaches to their grifting.
Right.
And that never happened. Like when I saw The Ring, you know what I mean? Like when he first gave The Ring, I thought like they had some sort of ring that was going to make her fall in love with Thomas or whatever, but like that never materialized.
Yeah, no, it is purely just, it's the ring that Lucille wears as her own wedding ring. And, she gives it up so he can give it to Edith to convince her to marry him. Like it's all, it's all the evil is done very much in a reality-based sense. And there's that other scene that is sort of a misdirect that makes you think there's going to be more to the supernatural, in which Edith and Dr. Allen have a moment together where they're, in Dr. Allen's kind of study, and he's showing off like his ghost photography. And so you think,
I just thought there was going to be a lot more supernatural stuff happening on the evil side, at least.
Yeah. So you thought there was going to be more to it, but no, that's the misdirect. But yeah, the whole plan is Thomas and Lucille, they're brother and sister. They love to fuck and they love to steal people's money.
That's like their two biggest things.
Yeah.
Grifting and incest.
Yeah. And so they've visited multiple cities before, trying to grift people out of money to build this clay mining machine. And they're, hey, we can mine all this clay, then we can sell it, and we're all rich together. That's a grift.
Yeah, sure. And the whole idea is they're trying to sell this high quality clay that they have in there. Like basically their family fortune was lost over the years, and they live. The only thing they really have to their name is this big giant house that's in complete disrepair, and it's built on a bunch of really red clay. So they're like, well, what are we going to sell? How are we going to get our fortune back? All we got's clay. So tough sell, but
gotta make that our thing.
Yeah.
But it's really red, so maybe we can do something with that.
We've got a differentiating factor here.
Yeah. So when they come in contact with Edith and her father, Edith's father basically recognizes them, sees them coming a mile away, and he says, "Look here, Nancy boy from Britain. That's not how we do things here in America. In America, we we pull up our bootstraps and we get on the rail line, and then we build our own house, and then we do something else, and then America, get the fuck out of here."
And then we put bacon and eggs on our cheeseburgers, and then he does the most American thing, which is just pays him off.
Yeah, and then pays him off. He hires a private investigator and then pays him off, and he's like, "Hey, look here, Fancy. I understand that you're some sort of type of grifter, but I want you to stay away from my daughter, so I'm gonna give you money to do so." And then, hey, you think that's gonna be it? But no, obviously, the Sharps don't like being told what to do, and they do away with Edith's father, and then convince Edith to come back with them to the fucking dying mansion in Cumberland, England. So this is where we get a good production design kind of split, because like I said before, everything aside from Edith's bedroom is like bathed in gold in America. America rules. America's number one. And then you go to England and everything sucks. Sucks
shit. It's wet. It's dark. It's moldy.
There's moss on all the walls for some reason. There's a hole in the roof that's constantly snowing. Just England eats ass.
It's funny though, because the house turns very much into everything from the time they enter the house on has a very distinct, dreamy, like fairy tale vibe to it.
Yeah.
Whereas the stuff in America, like you said, it's much more like, it's got this like air of prosperity, and it's not like grimy, but it's very realistic. And then the second they get to the old world, it's all fantasy, hyper romanticized. Even the dilapidating mansion, with its weird steampunk aesthetics and stuff like that, also has this like hole in the ceiling, but there's always like gentle snowflakes or leaves falling to make it seem like it's like a clearing in the middle of a forest or something.
Yeah. And I think to that end Del Toro actually kind of sets that up, in that the opening and the ending of the film are like kind of literal fairy tale bookends of what we're actually experiencing is the book that's written by Edith based on all this. So it's we're the Crimson Peak is the name of the book that Edith wrote. That's why everything has this dream-like, fairy tale quality to it.
Yeah. And she even like in the parallels between the physical book that she's writing and the story she's living in is like, she even mentions when people are ridiculing her or even just making comments and she's sensitive to them about how it's got ghosts in it. She keeps saying, well, it's not a ghost story. It's just a story with ghosts in it, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Which is also true of the movie we're watching, right?
Yeah, it's true of the movie.
We're watching.
Yeah, it's true of the movie we're watching. There's ghosts in it, but it's not a ghost story in the sense that, like, the ghosts are, they're there, they're present, they have value to the story, but they are not what drives the story. Whereas, if you think of like other films, like The Changeling, the ghosts drive that story because they push, they push Scott to make discoveries about what's going on in his house.
Even like a traditional Shirley Jackson style horror ghost story of the time, or even like I don't know, Clark Ashton Smith or something like that. Like M.R. James was actually who I meant to say. Okay. Like those are the haunting is really pushing the story forward. Right. It is almost the antagonist. Oftentimes the ghost or the haunting is like the antagonist.
Yeah, poltergeist. The ghosts are the antagonist. just to be really simple about it, the ghosts are the antagonists of poltergeist. That's all there is. Yeah, but but this film takes a lot from the Victorian past. Like it's very Edgar Allan Poe in a lot of ways. Like when we first get into this house and Thomas steps on the floorboards to show like this red clay bubbling up from the floorboards, it evokes the Telltale Heart in a way, and it becomes more telling as you go on. You learn like all these women are buried in the red clay, and it's it's kind of a mirror of that, of like, oh yeah, he's buried his secrets underneath this house. So
yeah, and the nasty bits, the blood and gore and stuff like that is like leaking out from every seam in the house, whether it's the floor or the pipes or whatever. It's just out of view all the time.
Yeah, it's prevalent, but like you can't nail it down. It's just like yeah. So what we learn is through Edith, she thinks she's gonna have a happy life here. Like she just basically gives up on the American dream because Thomas is the only one paying her any mind.
Yeah.
In this house though, she starts to learn, it's weird. I'm never boning down with my husband, and my husband's always never in the bed when I wake up in the morning. And boy, this tea makes me feel bad.
Yeah, it's making my guts hurt. It's making my kidneys ache.
Yeah.
And also, there's a lot of concern and question and things about her, her fortune and transitioning her fortune to them in England and everything.
Yeah, a lot of wondering. Hey, did you get that letter in the mail yet? Hey, did you get that thing they sent you? Where's that at?
Hey, did you get that thing I sent you? Harvey Birdman reference, guys. Yeah. Keep them coming.
Yeah, and on top of it all, she's seeing dang ghosts, but she's not seeing her ghost mom. Yeah. She's seeing these bloody red ghosts that are all screaming and skeletal, and they're coming up from the floorboards. And boy, it just really sucks. Except for there's a dog. So the dog keeps her sane. Yeah,
there's like a little yippy dog, which I kept thinking was going to play a bigger role too, but it never really does.
No, it just is more or less like it was a dog of the previous wife, and they thought they killed it and got rid of it, but no, it just comes out of nowhere and says, "Hey, I'm a dog."
Well, yeah, and it's also like I guess a little bit of an indication of, and we'll get to it even more so here in a minute towards the end, but like Thomas is not the driving force behind this insane combo. The brother and incestuous brother and sister murderers, grifters. It's really the sister,
right?
Lucille, who's driving this, and the reason that all of this stuff goes awry ultimately for Lucille and Thomas is Thomas's heart isn't entirely in it. And for that reason, he's leaving a lot of loose ends behind, the dog being one of them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thomas was the one that was supposed to take care of the dog. He didn't actually kill it. And then, we learned basically Lucille, I think up to this point, I had suspected that Thomas was the one that bashed Edith's father's head in on the sink.
Right.
But what we learn is, no, it's Lucille who did it. And it's Lucille who's killed their mother. And Lucille killed all these other women that they bring back and grift out of their money. So, yeah. I don't know how they never got investigated for that, though. Or is it just like a thing that nobody suspects?
The which one? The mom or?
No. Well, no, not the mom, because they know the mom, because Thomas went to boarding school and Lucille went to an insane asylum for a bit.
That's true.
No, I was just thinking of the other women, but I guess so the one woman is from Italy.
I think they just kept jumping. Countries.
Yeah, But there's the one woman's from Italy, the one woman's from Scotland. But still, the one woman from London, they should have been like knocking on the door, like, "Hey, where's my sister? Where's my mom? Where's this lady?"
Yeah, true. Well, do you think? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think the idea too is they take them out to this. Their family home is so isolated, that like it's beyond easy reach.
Yeah. Because even when Dr. Allen shows up to save her, they're like, yeah, it's like a 4-hour walk from here. So I don't know if you want to go ahead, but it's the winter.
Yeah, and it gets snowy and yeah.
So, yep. But yeah, Edith discovers, all of this through, the ghosts giving her a little bit of help, but then also she does a lot of investigation on her own, and she finds, oh, hey, there's this key that leads to a trunk, and I open the trunk. And then there's, it becomes like a little bit of a murder mystery because she discovers all these little clues that she puts together. And then she goes, oh, aha, they're going to kill me. And then just in time, Dr. Allen from America, who's been he's been investigating the whole time. Like we've seen him investigating. So it's not a surprise out of nowhere. I'm here to save you. But it's still, it has that same
early on
little bit of convenience like you were talking about.
Early on, before they went to England, I thought that the whole thing was going to be, hey, Thomas is obviously trying to scam. Thomas and Lucille are trying to scam everybody, but at the same time, Thomas obviously we very much established Thomas as like his feelings are still genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought ultimately we were going to learn that maybe American Dr. Cowboy who saves the day. I thought maybe we were going to learn that like he killed the father. You know what I mean? Like I was really hoping that we were going to get that type of twist, but we did not, unfortunately. But
yeah, I think this is also kind of what the YA edge to this is of Thomas actually does fall in love with Edith. It is like that is more of a reveal than anything, is that, oh yeah, he actually is in love with her, because that's what leads him to not kill Dr. Cowboy completely and to, like save the day in a way when he shows up as a ghost, just in a way.
If he would have betrayed Lucille in like the heat of the moment and it was a surprise, I think it would have been a lot more meaningful, but we're seeing behind the scenes them arguing, Lucille getting more and more self-conscious and like seeing that she's losing grip on him, like really gradually throughout the movie, which I understand you have to, or else it probably would have felt really abrupt.
Right.
But the quote unquote reveal of him actually loving, what's her name? Good
Edith.
Lord, I can't remember. Like Lucille and the Edith. Doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, except for it certainly doesn't come as a surprise to the audience.
No. It's just one of those things that like it's the only kind of big reveal that they have that's worth mentioning to the story outside of the incest plot line. Like I think the incest stuff is far more shocking to the audience. But the reveal that, oh, he actually did love her this entire time is a bit more, like he doesn't have the same kind of grifty, like cleverness about him, like where we think, where we're wondering when the other shoe is going to drop. And it's why like his reveal isn't as surprising, because we never wonder like when's the other shoe going to drop with him. Lucille starts as like a bad guy because she's already kind of, I don't know, she has that serpentist nature about her of just like, she's always working in the background, doing something grifty, doing something kind of like when we first see the three of them in the park and we're watching the silhouettes of Lucy and Thomas plot, and their silhouettes form this framing around Edith in the background. You're already you're like, okay, yeah, they're bad guys.
Yeah.
Lucille only gets worse though. Like she
does. Her eyes just narrow and like throughout the movie more and more.
Yeah. Like she never there's no redemption for her at all. And Thomas gets a slight amount of redemption. So, but yeah, you get a pretty, you get a decent showdown at the end where, Lucille is chasing Edith through the house, and you see all the parts of the house and the way the house is just like completely coming apart. It's now filling up with snow, and they run out into the snow, and the snow is being turned red, from it interacting with the clay, and it's like foggy, and it's like, it's awful. And again, just to that brutality at the very end, Lucille gets distracted by Thomas's ghost for 1 minute, and Edith just brains her with a shovel in a way that like sends a piece of her scalp flying up. And it's just like, holy shit. Like, none of this has the same kind of romanticism of like, the other Victorian era horrors of like, a slashed throat or a poisoning or a hanging, like all of those kind of like clue ways to die. This is just like brained with a shovel and your fucking brains fall out.
Brained with a shovel, or like stabbed in the face, literally right in your face.
Yeah. And like in the previous, like in that era, you would never stab somebody in the face because like there's something there's something distasteful about it. It would be distasteful to where they wouldn't have an open casket,
Yeah. He definitely brings his own level of brutality to Victorian horror, and just like, again, all over, like grimy, grungy. It's like the weather, the muddiness, all that sort of thing is like, it's just, and Edith is supposed to be like kind of above that the whole time.
Right.
Like even early on in the movie where she's like running through mud, but she's got like high heels on, and she like comes out the other side, just like, and then by the end she's braining people with shovels.
Yeah. And I think that's just like, it speaks to, when we started, I was talking about how this is set in 1901. That was the death of Queen Victoria. And it really feels like Del Toro is in a way celebrating the death of the Victorian era of horror by making these like really modern brutalities come forward, and these plot lines of like, we're gonna poison for money and like it doesn't happen. It devolves into like just extreme violence. And
face stabbing and head smashing,
and just like all the ways, all the things that could occur, in like the 19th century and the 18th century, even just like the way people were devious and rotten, but it totally falls apart because they're just like flopping around in the mud and muck, getting smashed with a shovel. It's not, like.
I really thought she was going into the gears of the machine. I thought, and they set it up for you to think that's what was going to happen.
That was another kind of setup, because Thomas is fucking with the machine and burns himself on the gears, and like you're waiting for his own arm to get caught in that. I was like, yeah, people love getting caught in machinery back then. It was their favorite thing.
Yeah, it was the number one American pastime. This is before anybody cared about baseball. It was all about getting limbs ripped off in machines.
Yeah. Oh shit, I got all geared up.
Yeah, they called it that. A common term for it was called getting geared up.
Nowadays, when you do gear, it's about doing steroids. When you did gear back in the day, it was because you got stuck in a steam engine of some sort.
Now you get a sick hook for a hand.
But yeah, overall, Crimson Peak, it has all the visual elements, and it has a lot of the same kind of storytelling elements, but it flips them on their head, and it makes it more modern, obviously, for a modern audience. But yeah, it has the elements of like, there's a poisoner mystery happening, and then there's also ghosts, and it's like, yeah, but we're not using them in the way that you would expect.
Yeah, I'll reserve some of my criticisms for the end during the like final discussion here, but I would say the only thing that that I visually really pretty movie to look for or to look at. I mean, like Guillermo del Toro, like he's going to connect all the dots in the right way and that sort of thing. It just, the whole thing did feel a little formulaic and not particularly surprising, with maybe the notable exception of like just sometimes things ending with brutal violence as opposed to a more poetic resolution that you might expect from a Victorian era film. But overall, good watch. Like I said, he's not capable. I don't think he's capable of making a bad movie.
No. Yeah, I think part of this film is just like it got maligned because it's slower and it's not as grandiose as I think people expected. Like the grandiosity is in the sets. It's in the way things are filmed. And then also, I guess if it was rated R and then had a budget of $55 million, if it didn't make all of that money at once, people were probably, just like down on it. They're like, whatever.
Yeah. It's a big budget.
Yeah.
It's a big budget.
But only 10 more million than your film. And that's in $1994.
Yeah. They went all out. They went all out on that one. But anyway, that's Crimson Peak from 2015.
Continued in part 3.